Welcome everyone to the October 2nd, 2017 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Liv, will you please lead us in the flag salute tonight? Yes, sir. Libert. After we're done, would you please remain standing for a moment of silence?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The board would just like to have a moment of silence for the tragedy up in Las Vegas this weekend. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, Ms. Ortega, would you please lead us in the inspirational comment?
Yes, thank you. It's a quote by Paulo Freire. Education either functions as an instrument which is used to facilitate the integration of the younger generation into the logic of the present system and bring about conformity, or it becomes the practice of freedom, the means by which men and women deal critically and creatively with reality and discover how to participate in the transformation of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Next on to reports from closed session. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. In closed session, the board voted by a 5-0 vote to adopt the findings and recommendations of the hearing officer and sustain the immediate suspension and dismissal of classified employee number 265170. The board also voted with a 5-0 vote to appoint Michael Rourke as Director of Network Administration. If you could stand, Mr. Rourke. Welcome. The board voted also in closed session with a 5-0 vote to approve the resignation agreement of classified employee number 138052, and the board voted in closed session to approve the resignation agreement of classified employee number 164415. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elzig. Next on to welcome 2017-2018 student board members. Mr. Deshawn.
Thank you, President Garcia. Well, welcome this evening, young man. So let's start with Rubino High School. You didn't expect that, did you? Would you?
Good evening, board. October will be an exciting month for us Falcons. To start off this week is our homecoming game and rally. The theme of our rally is Through the Decades, which prompts our students to dress up every day for the specific decade for each day. Monday was the 50s, today is the 60s, tomorrow is the 70s, Thursday is the 80s, and Friday is their class colors. The rally will be between third and fourth period and will involve sport team recognition and performances by our color guard, cheer, and dance teams. Our homecoming game will start at 7 p.m. in the stadium against our Mountain Valley League opponent, Pacific High School. On the same day as the homecoming rally, the seniors will have our senior sunrise, which will commence at 5:30 in the morning and will include breakfast, music, and games on the field. This has been our second senior event this semester. Our first was our senior dive-in, which had our seniors at our pool watching the shallows, which had a great turnout of more than, I'm sure, 70 people. In more recent news, our choir will have its first concert this Wednesday at Jurupa Valley High School at 7 p.m. and will feature all levels from mixed choir to chamber choir. Also happening this week, our FFA is at the Paris Fair all week, and they're hoping to sell their animals and win awards. And last but not least, all of our fall sports have started league play. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Austin, would you please report to us about Patriot High School?
There we go. Good evening, board. This Thursday is our college kickoff day, the Thursday the 5th. Also this Thursday is a home game against Jurupa Valley, which is actually going to be both of our pink out games as well. Also, our choir is performing their first concert at the First Congressional Church at 7 p.m. on Friday the 6th. Our Cardinal Regiment band's first concert is on Tuesday as well. Our fall blood drive went well. Our school donated 158 pints of blood, not including the plasma or blood cells donated by the Alex machine. Our RCC Spanish class is continuing this year, Tuesdays and Thursdays here at PHS. Here, students can get credits for RCC in this class. Also, the PSAT testing is going to be held at Patriot on the 11th. Finally, our PHS cheer this year is hosting a community cheer clinic for children on the 14th of October from 7 to 2:30 here. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Jacob, would you please report to us about Jurupa Valley High School?
Yes. Good evening, board. Our Hall of Fame ceremony on September 13th had a great turnout. The inductees Brady Kosher, Melvin Morrison, Mark, and Laura About attended the ceremony with their families along with our faculty to recognize them and their hard work. Our 2017 homecoming was a great success. Many students have had an amazing time at the Throwback Cartoon Themed Rally as we recognized our fall sports, academics, and staff. ASB worked continuously throughout the day, going from pep rally to the game to halftime show, and finished strong with the homecoming dance. Many alumni came to the game that night to support our Jaguars as they celebrated their victory against Arroyo Valley. The boys played their hearts out and finished off with a score of 36-19. The Breast Cancer Awareness Pink Out game is on October 13th at Jurupa Valley High School. We will be recognizing and remembering breast cancer survivors who fought a great fight against cancer. Be sure to be there and wear pink to support our football team in the fight against breast cancer. And lastly, our Red Ribbon Week begins October 23rd and ends on the 27th with our last home game against Hillcrest. We are finishing the week with our Blue Out game and senior night. Come to support our seniors as they play their last home football game on the 27th. We hope to spread positivity around the campus and have activities planned throughout the week, raising awareness about the dangers of drugs. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you. On to number 2, recognition. First item, recognize funding for Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Improvement Act of 2006. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The CDE recently notified us that we once again will receive funding for the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act in the amount of $151,973.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Next item, recognize amendment to the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program Grant Award. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm actually recognizing a reduction in federal funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the district was notified that our Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program Grant Award is reduced by $11,456.72. So our adjusted award amount is $21,633.70.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford. On to board member comments. Let's start with you, Ms. Ortega.
Thank you. I participated this weekend in the Food Fest along with Paula Ford and our superintendent and our president, and it was really nice to see, the Lions Club and the Rotary Club get together and create this event for not only our students but also the community, and so that our community can become more engaged. And it was so nice to see how the students get involved, and nobody even has to tell them, can you help here? They're just more than willing to help out in our community, so that's always really nice to see. And also this weekend I will be in a conference for the California Latino Association's Board Association, so I'm really excited to learn and see what trends are going on in our Latino community right now, so that we can best support our districts. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Mr. Mendez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I haven't had any meetings so far this month yet to attend with the committees that I'm involved in. I will have a report later on when I do attend them later on in the month. But I do look forward to attending our annual district family picnic this coming, I guess in about 2 weeks or so. And it's always a good time for the family to be there. And so it's great. The staff does an amazing job. And as always, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Mrs. Bradford.
Thank you. Students, I want to tag on what Ms. Ortega said about going to the Food Fest this weekend. When you go to community events like that, look around. These are your peeps. These are people who want to see you be successful. And as I looked around at the district representation and all of the people that I know from community, Rotary, and Lions, these are all people who want you to do well. And all you have to do is ask. And these are the people who will help you succeed in life. You don't realize it now. But I was extremely proud of our community and also of our district. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Mrs. Chard.
Well, I usually go to the Food Fest, but I didn't this year because I had to attend my 50th class reunion from Rubidoux High School. Happened to be on the same night. But I did hear that it turned out really well. My mom stopped by there first before she came to our reunion to be honored as a person who, in the Rubidoux community, for the high school, she had donated a lot of time, donated her house back when we could build floats at the house. So she's a supporter of our school district. The only activity that I did attend was the CTE fall meeting, and that is our all of our ROP programs, some of our programs at our high school are print shop, printing graphics at Jurupa Valley, the visual at Rubidoux, and several different ones, the automotive from Rubidoux. There's a lot of culinary at Rubidoux. Each of the schools have different programs, and they belong to this to help train our students and get them out into the workforce already. And this was the meeting where we meet everyone that's there, that's going to be working this year, and they get up and tell their plan of to what their program is going to entail this year and what they're looking for to fulfill in the curriculum. And then in the spring, we have a meeting that tells how we did, and it was very interesting. There's a lot of interesting departments and ways that they're trying. And this one was basically so that we could. It was a roundtable discussion in each of these groups as to doing something new. How can we put our programs out into the workforce? Ideas of how to get some of our students who are in the culinary department to get them into a job by providing food at board meetings or something like that. It was just ideas that were starting to be thrown out, and different things that will help everyone. They got their heads together. So there are some very interesting ideas. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report. It's still a little early, I guess, in the year. All our committees are not having their meetings yet. I'm also on the DAC meeting, which is the District Advisory Council, and I'm on the Finance Committee, and they're meeting on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Chard. First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Michael Rourke. I know he just stepped out, but please let him know that the board, has the utmost confidence in his abilities, and we look forward to his future success here at the district. And I'd like to also thank our student school board members for being here tonight, and every time you show up, I think, this is a leadership position, and for you to spend time in the evening to come join us, I think is really commendable. So thank you all for coming out and providing us with updates on all the schools. It gives us an opportunity to kind of jar our memory on what's happening, and so that we can try to attend events. So thank you. To had an opportunity to attend the Food Fest, as Ms. Ortega mentioned. Great night, and it's all for the kids. Rotary and Lions, like every single dollar from that event goes to our kids here, our students. Looking forward as well to the family picnic. It's a great opportunity. The district appreciates the staff, family, friends. So I look forward to that every year. And I'd like to thank the staff again for all the staff for a great kickoff to a new year, and looking forward to all the new things happening in the district. Okay, now on to public verbal comments. First card I have up here is Mr. Paul Swan Van Lent. Please come forward.
Good evening. Last month, I asserted that by working together, we can do a much better job at providing the best possible learning conditions for Jurupa's children than we are now. I claimed, as the California Teachers Association document titled "The Education All Students Deserve" claims, that teachers deserve teacher-directed professional development, time to plan lessons and collaborate with their colleagues, and shared decision-making to determine the most effective teaching methods, curriculum, assessment, and evaluation systems. I said that our members are the best trained experts in our fields and the experts on the ground, the best qualified to determine and decide what students need socially, emotionally, and educationally, and the best qualified to determine the best ways to go about meeting those needs. I shared that we need greater freedom to exercise our professional discretion and autonomy in our classrooms. Need them like we need air at the bottom of the ocean. Because we believe that being given more professional freedom will result in the best, most positive outcomes possible for the social, emotional, and educational growth of every one of our students. To realize this vision, NEA Jurupa has committed itself to improve working and learning conditions for staff and students with genuine collaboration throughout Jurupa Unified School District's educational decision-making process. We respectfully ask for your partnership in pursuing this goal. On September 6th, I emailed each of you an invitation to communicate about what we care about most, how to best serve our students. After introducing myself and my upbringing and education in the Jurupa Unified School District, I wrote the following. I invite each of you individually to come and visit our office and sit in on a representative council meeting. You might get a sense of what we, your employees, care about and discuss amongst ourselves when given the chance. I also invite each of you, or pairs of you, to meet with me personally to talk about matters of mutual interest and provide an opportunity to hear your employees' perspectives in a completely informal setting without the distractions and time limitations present at board meetings and representative council meetings. Communication is the key to a good relationship, so I thought it very important that I provide as many opportunities and forums as possible for sharing ideas with one another so that we can collaboratively pursue our mutual goal of serving our students and facilitating their social, emotional, and educational growth in the best possible ways, in the most positive environment we can create. I have since sent 2 follow-up emails encouraging all of you to respond or follow through. 3 of you have replied to none of my emails, but I believe that our members have received a message, and not a positive one, from that silence. While I did receive a preliminary reply to my first invitation from one of you, that member has not followed through on replying further, nor replied to my second and third invitations. I do very much appreciate you, Mr. Garcia, for offering to meet with me. I look forward to arranging a day, place, and time to meet with you, and hopefully with all of you soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Swan Van Lent. Next I have Miss Sylvia Olguin.
I know coming up here you speak to the board and the board solely. However, all of you know who I am, how I am, and that I'm very frank and very bold. Elliot, When I saw that this pavement was done, it irate me and many others. I invite all of you board members, as this president just invited you, to go to the different sites and look at the parking lots there. Look at the playgrounds there, because that is the most important part, because the kids are most important. The fact that this place got done when it absolutely, positively did not need it is obscene. One site you should definitely visit is Glen Avon. That parking lot is like a map. So if you want to go to LA, just look this side. If you want to go to Texas, look this way, because it will get you there. With all the cracks and holes that are in that parking lot, it is an accident waiting to happen, and a lawsuit included with it. Now there's this nice brand new building that got built next door for Jose Campos and programs pertaining to him. But there was no security put there. There were no gates to keep anybody out. 3 days out of the 5 last week, when I passed by this street and that building, there were tons of skateboarders there. The lights at the skate park were turned off, but there's plenty lights next door for them to come and skateboard. As an employee, but more so as a member of this community, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I didn't have my work shirt on, and somehow when people look at my tattoos, they seem to judge me by them. I went and told them they had to leave because I had already called the sheriff, and that was part of this district, and they had no business being there after hours unless it was pertaining to business. 3 days out of 5, they were there. What are you guys, you lit it up so well that they have no problem skating there, because there's no way they're going to have an accident. When you built that building, as beautiful as it looks, why isn't some security measure placed with it so that that does not happen? With all the disasters that are happening in this world today, do we really need any more? Do we really need somebody to get hurt there, and even though they weren't supposed to be there, sue the district for it? I think not. I think our money is well spent on the kids. And I'll drive again. Driver's ed for these kids is very important. Home economics is very important, because not all the kids, through fault of their own, are headed towards college. And we should congratulate those that are and encourage them to do so, but not all are. So we need to do more to help our kids. And I'm beating this to the hilt. I'm sure you guys are going to think. But again, I would like to thank Eric, the Director of Risk Management. When accidents happen, and they do, and I'm not saying all people that get hurt are accidents, but he treats everyone with the utmost respect that I believe he himself would like to be treated with, and he deserves that. I was so pleased that he got the director. His title was changed to director, because I think one of the greatest decisions this board made and this district made was to place Eric in that position. The man does his job with compassion, and we don't always agree. There are many times we don't agree with each other, but we disagree with respect, because I know that whatever he does, he is doing from his heart, and he's trying to do the right thing for all. And I think pretty much all of us could take a lesson from him.
Thank you, Mrs. Olguin. Next, we have Mr. Lib Cook. Come on up.
President Garcia and trustees, I appreciate you listening to me. Mr. Sean and our great administrators, thank you. And our audience. I wanted to thank you. I asked last time I was here about if there was a committee I could be on. I guess I didn't get on it. But I do want to thank you for having the DACA thing at Rubidoux High School. That was really very good. The students there did a really great job. Which one's Rubidoux? You guys did a great job there helping out. And it was just a really good event. I think our district is on the right thing. I was surprised Mr. Campos was there. Is he here tonight? Mr. Campos was there. Did a great job over there. And I just wanted to thank those who brought that to our district. DACA ends October 5th, but at least we got a good start on that. I appreciate that. I also want to thank Mr. Josh Lewis for the tweeting thing that we do on Tuesday nights. I wasn't really into it. I thought it was sort of a trickster. I didn't know what to expect but I got to learn that our trust from the tweeting thing has been very successful for me. It reminded me some good teaching strategies, and it's a really good thing. I would even suggest that if no one's been on it, that I know that a lot of you guys go on it because I've seen that. But I appreciate that. It's a really very good thing, and I think that's another very positive thing that our district's doing. Another thing I wanted to mention is I haven't been aware. I can't make it. Cafe literature is a really good idea. I don't know whose idea that was, but having parents read and become readers and have their children read with them, great idea. I want to thank whoever thought that one up. I wish I could go, but Tuesday mornings I'm teaching school, so I can't be there. Ms. Holguin has some good ideas. I wanted to support her, that I agree with her that not every kid will go to university or go to college, and we do need to think of successful ways that maybe we could do internships or somehow we could work with them doing some type of a training so that our kids will be successful when they leave high school, and I know that we all want that. And I think the last thing I wanted to talk about is I don't know what plan we have at our school, or maybe it's our school site, and I've been trying to figure it out, but it's rough. It seems like every year we have 5 kids that have anger issues. They're like tier 3 problem kids, and I don't know if we can get some more mental health for them, but they're so disruptive. If you've ever been in a classroom, they disrupt almost every class. Some of these kids are disruptive all day long, and we don't need to punish them. We need to help them. I know you guys agree with me on that. No one wants to hurt these kids. We just want them to be successful. We don't want to see them end up, going down the wrong path. So I just wanted to mention that I think if there's a way that I can be of help for that too. I wanted to, again, thank everyone for the things that they've done, and I think you guys are on the right track with the parents. I appreciate how I really think you've always worked with us as teachers. I think the board's always, in our district's always been with us. We'd like for us to be that way, and we appreciate it. I just wanted to thank you. I do want to say that as a teacher, though, it has been more difficult for me the last 2 years. There's been a lot more piled on top of my thing, on top of my tray as a teacher, and it's been more and more difficult. But it's just probably like everyone else's jobs. We all get things put on. We just keep striving on. We keep doing the best we can. Our goal is to make the best students we have, right? And we just want to be successful. Sometimes I feel teachers are taking out the classroom too much, and we need to be there. I do think that it's important that when teachers can, we should try to keep them in the classroom so that we can teach them. Because when you plan for a sub, the sub doesn't do as good as they are. They don't do what we want them to do because they're not with that regular momentum, right? You can understand that. You know that. So I'd just like to say I appreciate the support you give teachers, and I thank you for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We've got no other cards here. Anyone else would like to come and address the board? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Now we're on to number 5, administrative reports and written communications. 5A, California Standards LCAP Implementation Report. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. There's 2 things I'd like to talk about tonight. In a few minutes, I'll talk about our CASP scores from the assessments that our students in grades 3 through 11 took in the spring. But first, I want to spend just a few minutes talking about the 100 Mile Club. As you know, we've been in partnership with the 100 Mile Club for several years now. All of our elementary schools are a part of it. The mission of the 100 Mile Club is to engaging and empowering kids and families to achieve a healthy lifestyle through physical activity nationwide, preventing childhood inactivity and obesity, one child, one school, and one community at a time. And we've been very excited and successful with the hard work of our head coaches at our school sites and our teachers who encourage our kids, our schools that give our kids lots of opportunities to get those miles. And in addition to the opportunities that students have at their school site, say during PE or before or after school, we also have our open community runs. And those happen on Tuesday nights from 5 to 6:30 at Rubidoux High School. The track is open to anyone who wants to come and get some miles in. And on Wednesday nights from 5:30 to 7 at Jurupa Valley High School. And those are incredible events. You'll see 200 students, families all out there doing physical activity, getting their miles in, and it's been greatly successful. And we have a new addition this year. As you may not be aware, the process for students to get credit for those miles that they run, they come to the open run, they get a slip. Every time they walk around the track and hit the finish line, somebody gives them a little hash mark on their hand. And then at the end of the night or when they finish, they go in, we create a card, we tally up those hash marks, we figure out how many miles they ran, we give the student the card, the student takes the card home, the student brings the card to their school the next day, gives it to their teacher, the teacher takes the card, transfers it onto a chart, and eventually the student gets those credits on his or her journey towards 100 miles. So that's been a little bit unwieldy, requires a lot of hands to get that information. So this year we have scanners, which are so cool. 11 of our schools have these scanners, sorry. They look just like a little remote. So what happens is we print badges for the students and laminate them. They bring their badge. The supervisors and volunteers at the open run, as they go by, they click, and it reads that student's lap. And so click, click, click. The students don't have to get a little card. They don't have to bring anything home. When that employee gets back to work the next day, they sync that up. It goes into the system under Track the Miles, and voila, it's done. So cut out a whole lot of transferring of information and the possibility that maybe that student loses that piece of paper before he gets there. And the exciting thing is, on our school's websites, Andrew's going to show you Camino's website. At the 11 schools so far that have them, and soon to be hopefully the 16, if you just go on the student tab and click on Track the Miles, you get this great little snapshot screen that shows how many miles that school has, the top classes for how many miles, and parents can look up their student and see how many miles their students have completed so far on their journey. Now, I don't know how necessary that is, because in my experience, anytime I ask a kid, how many miles do you have? They 43. You know, they always know exactly where they're at and what they're doing. But it's a great way to save time for everybody. It's an exciting new way. As you know, we come back at the end of the year and we give you an idea of the hundreds of thousands of miles that our students have run. That requires me emailing the school site head coach, and the school site head coach emailing all their teachers and getting all the totals from all the teachers, and then adding it up and figuring out which students have the top one so they can invite them. Now it's going to be a couple of clicks of the mouse here at the district office, and we won't have to burden our head coaches who already work so hard to set up all those runs anyway. So we are super duper excited about these scanners and the possibility that they present for us with the 100 Mile Club. The other exciting thing, I'd like to have Mr. Warner come up. Thomas Warner is a teacher at Ina Arbuckle, and he's, as you can tell by looking at him, quite the athlete himself, and he wants to invite you to something special he's doing to promote 100 Mile Club.
Good morning, board members. So on this Friday, October 6th, you guys talked about having a golden opportunity to, since your calendars maybe not be quite as busy, on Friday, October 6th, I'm running for 12 hours from 6 a.m. in the morning till 6 o'clock at night to raise money for our 100 Mile Club at our school, and also kind of to motivate the kids and, you know, let them know the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. Last year we did it, and I was able to fundraise almost $2,000 for our site. So that's 200 kids that would get basically free membership in the 100 Mile Club, because it takes $10 to pay. But my goal is to try to make as much money as I can on my run, so I can sponsor as many kids at our school. So since I'm at Ina Arbuckle, the kids are, you know, a little higher need, so they might not have that money to pay for the 100 Mile Club. And like Mr. Dabrowski was saying, now that we have this tracking system, the fervor behind it is really nice. The kids are really excited to get out there. They have the barcodes, they're getting them scanned, so it's something that's really nice. So I wanted to cordially invite you guys. We have a community run from 3:15 to 6 that we're kind of opening it up to the community, to the 100 Mile Club kids throughout the district. to friends, family, parents. It's, you know, kind of that, like you guys are saying, that community event. So I wanted to kind of cordially invite you all to that, to come out and support the kids. And rumor has it, Mr. Deshawn, that you have jogged once or twice. so if you guys, yeah, well, you know, I'll be going really slow because I got to go for 12 hours, so I won't be going too fast. So, yeah. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know what we're doing at our school site at Ina Arbuckle. And the principal there, Mr. Wander, has been really gracious about giving me time to do this, because I know I told him there was 2 things that I'll take time off for work, and one of them's family and the other's running. So it's just a good fit, and the kids are excited about it. So I just kind of wanted to make you guys aware of it, and if you have an opportunity to come out and see how the kids, like you were talking about, Ms. Ortega, transforming lives. This is basically what they're doing at one step at a time, because the kids are setting goals, they're accomplishing, and they're excited about it. So it's kind of a win-win for us at the school site. So yeah. So I will. I don't know if I. It's a flyer, and there's also a website that has a little more information and some pictures and videos from last year. So it's something that you guys can visit and check out just for more information.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm going to come in there in the morning, but I won't be there in the evening when you end your your program. How can people donate? How are you going to
Well, what
do
we're
the donation?
doing is the 100 Mile Club has been gracious enough to set up a fundraising CrowdRise page, and there's an exact link that will take you right to the page on CrowdRise that's on that flyer.
Okay.
That's fundraising, and then we're going to do a little bit of fundraising at the site itself for people who maybe don't want to go on there but want to donate to because all the CrowdRise, we don't touch any of the money. It goes straight to 100 Mile Club. So all the money that we raise goes right into our account at 100 Mile Club, so we're able to buy more incentive packages for the kids.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'll be there if you're.
I'll be there in the morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Mr. Warner, I have to work, so I can't make it. But I'm not much of a runner either. But I have been to the 100 Mile Club before, and I think it's great that you're doing this. Very inspirational for the kids and for all of us. And I want to thank you for that. And so I'll be out probably at some of the 100 Mile Clubs this year. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to give a shout out to our facilities department, as a result of this collaboration, we now have 7 new tracks at our elementary schools over the last couple of years. So it's been exciting to see those tracks going in and those, you know, things that facilitate our students being able to make those 100 miles. Okay, second thing is to talk about our CASP scores. As you all recall, back in the day, we took the STAR test and we got a score and we got a number, and that was how good we did. And it was a very sort of singular method of accountability. And now we're in a multifaceted method of accountability where we have a whole series of indicators that determine how successful our schools and our district is being. Some of those, I'm going to talk about one tonight, which is the CASP scores. But in addition to that, we monitor chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, English learner progress, graduation rates, college and career readiness, the CAF scores in language arts and in math, and the local indicators as well, which are the basic services, implementation of academic standards, parent engagement, and local climate survey. So all of those things make up the picture of accountability for our school district. But this one piece of the picture was released very recently, so I wanted to share some of that data with you. So this first chart shows the percentage of students in language arts that either met or exceeded the goal. So there's a 4-point rubric on the test. So these are the percentage of students that got either a 3 or a 4 in language arts by grade level. And as you can see, students take the test in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. The next chart is the same chart, but for mathematics. And just to note, our scores as compared to last year were relatively flat with some very minor gains. And when we first thought that, we were pretty disappointed because we expected that our students would be growing and that our scores would be going up this year. But as you see on the next slide, as they released the scores for both the county and the state, for example, if you look at grade 3 all the way to the left, the 2 shades of blue are Jurupa from 15-16 and 16-17. The 2 shades of green are Riverside County from 15-16, 16-17, and then the 2 shades of, I guess it looks like orange from here, are the state. So if you were to look at the growth of across the county and across the state in language arts, it's almost identical, the amount of growth that we made. So we did have a lot of company, and we would like to have seen greater growth, and we expect and plan to see greater growth this year. But that same picture happened all across the county and all across the state. And the next slide is the same thing in mathematics, and it presents sort of the same picture in that amount of growth that has happened from last year to this year, which I find very interesting, and don't know quite the reason why it was so static all across the state. There's always the possibility that a cut point changed or something happened that we weren't told about, but that seems to be the way it's gone all across the state. The next chart is a comparison of districts across our county and the change rate over the last 2 years. So from left to right, it shows all of the districts in our county and the percent of change over 2 years, from 15 to 17. So, and as you take a look at that, you can see that we grew 4% in language arts, which doesn't sound like a lot, and we'd like it to be more. But as I looked at the scores across the county, I noticed that there was one district that grew 6%, a couple that grew 4%, and the remainder of the districts grew less or went backwards. So it was at least pleasing to see that our growth is on target in the upper third of the districts in our county. And then as we look at mathematics, it's the same story. We made 2% growth. There were a few districts that made 3 and one that made 4, but the remainder of the districts made lesser growth than we did. So we're proud that we made some growth that looks positive when compared against the others in our county, but we're working very hard, and our students are working very hard because we want that number to grow up significantly, and 3 or 4% isn't going to do it. So we're looking at those on the school and the district level and the different subject areas. Unfortunately, with this particular test, different from the old test that we used to take, we don't get very specific information. For example, the language arts is only broken down into what they call 4 claims. So there's like reading, writing, listening, speaking. There's 4 scores that we could get out of that one big score. It doesn't go down to the standard level or the skill level, so it's very difficult to really target or pinpoint how, where those things are that you could really focus on. So we have to take more of a holistic viewpoint in terms of how do we make improvements, what do we focus on, how do we work on that information. And we have devised a series of internal district assessments and performance assessments that will allow us a better picture of how our students are doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month level than what this test provides, because it just doesn't get down to the nitty-gritty to give us good information. But those are our results. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. When you're looking at the ELA in the 11th grade, it's quite a bit higher. And then when we look at the math, the 3rd grade is higher.
Mm-hmm.
How does that...
So starting with 11th grade, there's something to do with the complexity of the 11th grade test, because scores were high across the state in language arts. One significant difference in 11th grade between language arts and math is that all students take language arts 9, 10, 11. So they're all in the same regular, unless by 11th grade they're in an AP language arts class, they're all taking the same courses. However, in math, our students may be in different, prior to the board changing our requirement to a 3-year math requirement. It used to be that students were only required to complete 2 years of math to graduate. So a student theoretically could have taken Math 1 in 9th grade, Math 2 in 10th grade, not taking math in 11th grade, and then they're up against this test that has questions from Math 1, 2, and 3. So there's a variety of where students are, and the test doesn't take into account what courses students might be taking in math. So there's a variance, and students may be taking an assessment that measures a course they haven't taken. Now that's changing because we've changed that graduation requirement, but I think that in large part would account for a big difference in scores.
How do we account for the 3rd grade in ELA and math, where the ELA is a lot lower than math?
I don't have a really specific answer for you. It's 32 versus 37%, so it's not a significant difference. I can say, like, when you look at math and you see 5th grade, it goes down quite a bit. 4th and 5th grade is when we entered the world of fractions, and even with the old test back in the day, our students in 5th grade, there was always a dip in their achievement because it becomes very conceptual and a higher order mathematics, and so our students begin to show more of a struggle at 5th grade than they do in 3rd.
Our ELA across the board for 3rd through 8th grade is more even.
Yeah.
Where the math is a little bit more variety.
Yep, and that's a statewide trend.
That's my same question in the district, the county, and the state comparison, where our 3rd grade appears to be much higher than our 11th grade, and that's this district, county, and state comparison. So, I don't know what I'm really asking. I'm trying to find out why is the 3rd grade so much higher? I mean, do they have a more concentration on the preparing for the testing there than we do for the 11th grade, or is that because there are students that maybe drop out? And we don't.
Yeah, I would say the first part of your question in terms of the preparation for the test, I would say that's not likely to be it, because this particular test, much different from the older tests that we've taken in the past, you can't prepare for in a test prep kind of way, because it's a much more higher level thinking test where questions measure multiple standards, and it's a much more inclusive test.
Well, in comparison to the state, maybe that's what I'm asking.
So what you're saying is that the gap, the gap between ours and the states in 11th grade math is greater than the gap. Although actually, when I look at it, it's
not really
21 to 32, so that's about an 11% gap in 11th grade, and 37 and 47 in 3rd grade. So I think it's actually, the gap has stayed the same. Right. So it's the trend is the same both in our district and across the state.
Just a comment, and Mr. Dabrowski alluded to this. This is a much more difficult test to analyze discretely. One thing we don't know is what you call the reliability from one year to the next. So if you give a student the same test year after year, they should score, we hope they would improve, but the same question should measure the same ability. We don't know that, and the state also changes cut points of met or exceeded, and we don't always know that either. So it's a little bit of a moving target, and the difficulty is with only 4 claims or 4 areas to really look at the discrete tests of each student. We don't always know even where the students could have done better. But on the old CSTs, we knew almost to the standard what test scores measured, so it's much more difficult. I will say something a little controversial, but the one thing that's true across the state, more affluent districts tend to score higher. So what we really need to be sensitive to is, are we making continual progress? And I think that's what we're looking at. Unfortunately, the caveat there is because we don't know the test reliability from year to year, And I don't believe the state ever publicly publishes that. Would be very interesting. It usually, if you look at any psychological measure, you can find a reliability factor somewhere in the stats. It's secret.
Why does the state change it? Why don't they, why, I mean, is there a purpose, or is it that there's different people that you put in those positions that make those decisions to change it? Because to me, if you want a district to show the growth, it should stay at.
I think you sort of hit the nail on the head, is that they're sort of improving the airplane while it's in the air. And they did that consistently with CSTs in an effort to make a better measure. And they just do. The state is under some pressure from different groups to test and measure different things. Also, any test would use different questions from year to year. What seems to be absent is whether those questions measure the same thing. So it's a question we can't answer,
and are there
basically.
different tests? In other words, do they have, say, 4 different tests and we never know which one we're going to get, as opposed to?
No, what they have is it's an adaptive test. So when a student answers a question, if they get it right, the next question goes up a little bit in complexity. Okay. If they get it wrong, it goes down a little bit in complexity. And so it endeavors to, with fewer questions, answer the level of achievement of that student. So it's a really complex system. And so it wouldn't surprise me that they're tweaking and improving along the way. And if past history is correct, we won't know that that happened for a long time.
Well, I commend you guys on trying to understand this then. It's difficult, you know, as a board member, because I'm not a teacher and I'm not an administrator, to understand why some of these things are done. But you've given me a better idea now. I appreciate that.
I think the other thing I will say is that I think teachers themselves have a much better grasp of where their students are in relation to the standards than this test may measure. This test doesn't measure if a student's having a bad day, if their parents had a fight, or they're having a great day, or they were in a late softball game the night before. And we don't know any of that stuff. But teachers know whether their students are meeting standards.
The only comment I had, thank you, Mr. Chard. The only comment I had on this, just looking at it real quick on the math, and I don't know if this is the case or not, or if there's any correlation, but isn't like 3rd grade where they really start to implement Common Core and those types of things, and maybe that's why they're showing an improvement. Hopefully next year we'll see the same thing in 4th grade. Just a thought.
That it would be the case that our 3rd graders have had instruction in Common Core since K, since that's about the time I went. So we certainly do expect that as our students have more and more instruction under the new system, that they will improve in their achievement. Yeah.
Are we adding
Absolutely.
2nd grade this year?
It's all grades. It's just that students who are in 3rd grade have now had 4 years of it. So it's about the time we started.
But
Was
I mean,
when they were
aren't we
K.
testing 2nd grade this
Oh
year now?
no, the state only tests
It's
third
only
third
about
through
third.
8 and 11.
Any other comments? Questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski. Okay, next item 5B, summary of 2017-2018 intra-district attendance permits. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. Each year, administration provides a summary of the number and type of student transfer requests. There were a total of 797 students that were involved in our open enrollment period, which will be coming up on pretty soon again, December 1st. And the transfers that were within the district boundaries, these are intra-district transfers, and they were for the 2017-18 school year. A summary of the outgoing and incoming number of transfers by school is provided in your backup materials. And then in addition to the intra-district transfers, we also have inter-district transfers, which are student transfers outside of the district, and that included 287 students that were transferring from other districts into our district, and 552 transfers out of the district. And the inter-district transfers in and out of the district include new and renewing transfers, and you have a summary of how many of those are new and how many of those are renewing in your backup materials.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford. Any questions, comments? Nope. Okay. On to item 5C, review approval of 2017-2018 Local Control Accountability Plan and the 2017-2018 adopted budget. Mrs. Ford.
The Riverside County Office of Ed has notified the district that its 2017-2018 Local Control Accountability Plan and corresponding 2017-2018 adopted budget have been approved. Under LCFF regulations, the County Office of Education has to annually review the district's local control and accountability plan and determine if it adheres to 3 areas. First of all, to the State Board of Education's adopted template. Also to that the budget includes sufficient expenditures to implement the actions and strategies that are included in the plan. And then the final requirement is that the plan includes the expenditure requirements for funds apportioned on the basis of the number and concentration of unduplicated pupils. So those are our supplemental and concentration funds, and they're looking to see that we're spending those appropriately. JUSD's adopted LCAP has been analyzed using these guidelines, and it is approved for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. And you have a copy of the actual letter from the Riverside County Office of Education.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford. Any questions? Comments? Okay. Last item, 5D, other administrative reports and written communications. Mr. Deshawn.
And there are none.
Okay, thank you. If we could please ask the board to refresh your screen, I think just to make sure that we're able to vote. Right. Okay. All right, on to the action session. Item A, approve, adopt routine action items by consent. We'll now entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve, and I have a couple of questions with a couple of items.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Mendez. Second by Mrs. Chard. Mr. Mendez, a couple questions?
Yes, on the item, the $20,000 for coaching and support of new principals. I was just wondering what type of training and support they're being provided with, and are there specific sessions that take place, or is it on an individual basis? Just some general information about how this all takes place, or will take place.
Yep. So the coach, Sfro, will be meeting with principals once per month. And each principal will have sort of an individual path based on their experiences and what they're working on.
Whether so it's tailored for them.
Yeah, tailored for them. Whether it's classroom visitations, whether it's dealing with particular management items. The coach will work confidentially with him in that we won't be directing how that happens. But we hired a coach who has a good deal of experience and works in the Val Verde district as well as ours, and has been doing this for a little while. So it'll be simply monthly meetings with the coach, as well as accessibility and availability throughout the month for the coach through those new principals.
I think it's a great idea, because definitely anything you can do to help support somebody that's into a new position, it's like a good idea. So appreciate that. The second item that I had a question on was the one. The $30,000 allocated for, let's see what this is called, I think it's about Jurupa Valley High School, Inspector Services, Master Agreement, Training Workshops for Staff. My question there was, is there going to be a series of meetings or in-service days or times when that's going to be established? And I understand it's for the various types of staff, right? Classified, certificated, administrative. It's the grant for, I believe it's for Jurupa Valley High School in the amount of $30,000. It's a project to provide services through a master agreement, through training workshops for staff.
We have it now.
I'm sorry to throw this at you. I should have asked you.
No, that's okay. That's Innovate Ed, and that training will be for teachers, and it's around the collaboration, professional learning communities, those types of activities that the staff do together in departments and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, call for the vote.
Sorry for the slight delay. My screen went dark while I was asking the question, so I had to reload it.
Motion carries 5-0. Item B, approve instructional materials for review. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. Tonight we'd like to approve for review a new high school AP calculus textbook. And just as a review of the process, from time to time the College Board changes the exam, and when our students are taking an AP course, the goal of that course is to be able to pass that AP test and receive college credits. So as the test changes, there's a requirement from the College Board and good practice for us to relook at the materials and adopt new materials that match that assessment so that our students can have the best shot at receiving that college credit. So that's the case today with AP Calculus. We have, over the last 3 years, been reviewing and replacing all of our AP textbooks, and we will finish that process this year. So all of our students in AP courses have recent updated course texts. But when that happens, we gather a group of AP Calculus teachers, in this case one per high school, and they take a look at several possible texts, and they follow a process of looking at and rating that text in a whole series of different criteria area. And so once they have narrowed it down to two likely candidates, or the most likely candidates, they'll pilot that in their classroom for an amount of time, and then they will come back together and they will make a recommendation for a winner, so to speak. Once we have that recommendation, then I bring that recommendation to the instructional council, which is composed of elected teacher representatives from every campus. And so someone from that committee, that math teacher, brings and talks about that process and why they recommend this as the appropriate text. And then the council votes and affirms that recommendation. And then once that happens, we inform NEAJ that we're moving forward with a new textbook adoption, and then it comes to you. And at the first meeting, we ask you to approve those materials for review. And so for a 2-week period, those materials are made available both here at the district office and at both public libraries in Jurupa Valley, so that interested members of the public can take a look at those materials and weigh in and comment. And then at our next meeting, we will then bring those back and share any comments that might be made. Generally, there aren't comments, and then ask you to adopt that recommended textbook. So tonight, we're just asking you to approve it for review, and then it will be available for the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Dabrowski.
Make a motion to approve for display, right?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mendez, second by Mrs. Chard. Any questions or comments? The only question I got, Mr. Dabrowski, is how often do they change the text? Is it every 5 years, 10 years?
It's not very often, and it depends on the course itself too. But I know I've been here 7 years, and the calculus text has not changed in the last 7 years. And one thing I forgot to add was that we have 2 calculus courses. We have Calculus AB and Calculus BC, and that corresponds to the 3 courses at, say, a Cal State. They would have Calculus A, B, and C over 3 quarters of a year. So this textbook will serve as the textbook both for AB and for BC.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll call for the vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item C, adopt resolution number 2018/11, establishing a special reserve fund for other than capital outlay. Mrs. Ford.
Yes, as the board is well aware, the district is experiencing and will continue to experience significant future increases in the district's employee pay contributions for the STRS, the State Teachers Retirement System, as well as the Public Employees Retirement System, PERS. The California School Accounting Manual allows for the board to approve a special reserve funds to be used for revenue set-asides that are deemed by the Board of Trustees as restricted or committed to expend for specific purposes. And this is through the establishment of what's called a Fund 17. This is a special reserve fund for other than capital outlay. Amounts from this special reserve actually have to be transferred into the general fund before they can be expended. And so the board would have complete control over that process. Although the fund is authorized by statute, it functions as an extension of the general fund, just as I mentioned, and it's combined with the general fund in conformance with the generally accepted accounting principles. So we are asking, administration is recommending that the board adopt resolution number 2018/11, which establishes a special reserve fund for other than capital outlay in accordance with Ed Code 42840.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
So move.
Motion by Ms. Ortega,
Second.
second by Mrs. Chard. Is that Ms. Ortega? All right, okay. All right. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President.
Ms. Reyes.
Where do I start? This is a situation that districts throughout the state find themselves in because it's an ongoing problem statewide, and it's not going to get any better. Districts are in much worse situation than we are in terms of the deficiency that this creates or impact that it creates on their district budgets. This is sort of a Band-Aid approach to the situation from my perspective. I think I've made mention of this in the past, that the real way that this needs to be addressed is at the state level for them to really make some significant changes in the way the system is structured. Otherwise, it's going to collapse. I mean, there's only so long that you can continue to defer this for any length of time. But I guess all that said is that, we really somehow need to work with our legislators to really make them see the urgency of the situation, because it really begins to put districts across the state in a very perilous, situation financially. And so this short-term Band-Aids definitely are needed and important and necessary, and obviously it's important for us to, as a board, to take a look at it seriously and approve it. And so with that, I just want to say that I'm all in favor of this, and looking forward to hopefully the state at some point doing something significant at that level.
I can tell you, I actually was in a meeting where the Legislative Analyst Office came in and had a discussion with us, and they're not looking at this issue. They do not see this as an issue. So it is important that, we have a voice out there, and again, LCFF funding was never meant to add additional monies to our budgets. LCFF funding was to get us back to our purchasing power of 2007, 2008. So even when we're fully funded, we're looking at levels where we were funded in 2007, 2008. And then in addition to that, they're putting this burden of the increased STRS and the increased PERS on districts, and all within, Prop 98 funds. So yes, we do need to have a voice out there that, this is a problem and we need to address it, and they can't put it on the backs of school districts.
Absolutely, because by using this funding mechanism to cover these shortages does take away from other needs that our students would have in the classroom and in other support systems that we have for their education.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item D, adopt resolution number 2018/12, approving and authorizing execution of a school facilities funding and accompanying mitigation agreement. Mrs. Ford.
Thank you. Sequanta, I believe that's how we say it, Partners has presented an offer to enter into a school facilities mitigation and funding agreement for the formation of an annexable community facilities district, which is number 16. This is a little bit different than what you're used to in that this particular community facilities district would allow for other small projects to also annex into that. And we would not have to issue bonds until we were at a point where we felt it was advantageous for the district to actually issue those bonds. So as the board's aware, this CFDs are a financing mechanism that's provided to the district for developers to be able to mitigate the school facilities impact that is resulting from that development. So this particular CFD would be formed to mitigate the impact of the Sequanta Partners project, as well as any others that would come into the CFD. But it would allow us to bring in projects all across and throughout the district into this particular CFD. So at this time, tonight, the board's being asked to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a school facilities funding and mitigation agreement for the annexable CFD number 16.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
I have a question, Ms. Ford. You mentioned other projects. What would be some examples of some other projects that could fall under this category?
We had one development project that was actually the one you might be familiar with across from Nueva Vista High School. Mm-hmm. And that particular project was very small. We approached them about a CFD, but because it was such a small project, they weren't interested in forming a CFD on their own. Had we had an annexable CFD available, they may have wanted to come into that annexable CFD and be a part of it. So it's these small projects that might be 50 houses or less, and we have several of those within the district that are just small areas and plots of land where it's a small development that comes up, and they could annex into the CFD, and that would save them the cost of a full CFD.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense, and it's great to be able to have this mechanism to be able to take advantage of that. Thank you.
So, Mrs. Ford, it could be anywhere in the district. Doesn't have to be in one location.
That's
Correct. It can be anywhere within our district boundaries.
Okay.
So a developer is not required to contribute into it?
No, they're not required to. If they do not form, if they don't become part of the CFD, then they would be paying, the developer themselves would pay the school fees directly to us.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we.
Yeah.
So if the board would like to, I'm sorry, I was trying to get you out of here earlier, Corey. We have Corey Burbach from Cooperative Strategies here this evening, who is our financial advisor. And then we also have Graham Beck from Nixon Peabody, who is our bond counsel. So, and they work on the mitigation agreements and they do all the legal stuff for us. So anyway, they are here, and so if you do have any additional questions, you've got the team.
Okay.
So move.
Motion by Ms. Ortega.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mendez. Any other questions or comments? Thank you both for being here.
Yes.
Okay, let's call for the vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item E, adopt resolution number 2018/13, establish Community Facilities District number 16, and to authorize the levy of a special tax within said Communities Facilities District. Mrs. Ford.
This is a part of another portion of item D. As part of the formation process, the board is, for CFT 16, the board is to consider adopting the resolution of intention, number 2018/13, to establish the CFD, its boundaries, and the facilities to be financed by the CFD through the levy of special taxes. And copies of the resolution and the boundary map are included in the backup materials.
Make a motion for approval.
Motion by Mr. Mendez. Second by Mrs. Chard. Any questions or comments? All right, call for the vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item F, adopt resolution number 2018/14, approval of award of contract for additional work. Dr. Hanson.
So this item is related to consent item number 30, our category 18 contractor for plumbing at the Parent Center. There were 2 change orders on this job. One of them was quite significant, which is what this resolution refers to. About 75–80% of way into the job, we were directed by JCSD to make modifications to the sewer for the Parent Center, and so that's what this change order is referring to. Since that change order number 2, exceeds the cost, the 10% threshold allowable under Public Contract Code Section 20118.4, the board shall ratify this change order by adopting this resolution, basically stating that this change order exceeded the 10% of the contract amount. Obviously, when we're midstream with the job, we direct the contractor to keep working. It costs us a lot more money to stop the work, rebid it, and then we expose ourselves to damages from the contractor. So we direct them to continue to work, but however, this contract or this change order exceeded the 10% threshold, which requires this resolution to be adopted. So the administration recommends this evening that the board adopt resolution number 2018/14, approval of award of contract for additional work at the Parent Center.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
What happened?
So
there was additional work that JCSD required well after the fact, after the original plans were approved. So like 500 lineal feet of sewer had to be added, 4-inch to 6-inch had to be increased, channelization of a manhole had to be done. So all after the fact, after the
Why
original.
didn't JSCD see that coming? JCSD see that coming?
That's a good question. That's what we've asked them. They approved the original plans, but once we got in the ground, they realized that the load or what was originally there wasn't going to suffice for the Parent Center.
Why didn't they know that?
I don't know.
Sometimes, though, Dr. Hanson, is it, sometimes you really don't know until you start digging in.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. It's happening on other projects as well. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're not happy about it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we've been back and forth on it. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's always negotiation. What's? Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah.
She's tough.
Any other questions?
I don't know if we have a motion. I lost track. Okay, we don't.
No motion. Summary.
I'll make a motion.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Motion by Mrs. Chard.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mendez. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll call for the vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thanks again, Dr. Hanson. I know there's a lot of work there with all these contracts, and we appreciate you really staying on top of it, you and the team. So. Okay, item G, adopt resolution number 2018/15, resolution for exception to the 180-day wait period. Mrs. Ford.
Administration is requesting the board adopt a resolution for an exception to the CalPERS 180-day wait period to appoint Mr. Hugh Regan to perform the duties of a telephone network technician. This appointment is limited duration, but it's necessary to support the transition from our legacy Nortel phone system to voice over internet protocol system, which we're in the process of moving forward on. Specifically, the position requires Mr. Regan, who possesses knowledge and skills of the district's Nortel system. We were unable to find other people who had those skills. They kind of said, what kind of system do you have and how old is it? As Mrs. Collins knows, she was well involved in that. Once approved by the board, the waiver will actually be presented to the county Office of Education. They have to make the final approval before we send it on to CalPERS. And again, this is for a limited duration for this project. So administration is recommending that the board adopt resolution number 2018/15, resolution for exception to the 180-day wait period.
Mrs. Ford, is this Buzz?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I thought. He's very good. We can trust him. He's great. It's too bad he retired, huh?
If he just could have held on for just a little longer.
Just a little longer, yeah. So I so move.
Motion by Mrs. Chard.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ortega. Any other questions or comments? All right, call for the vote. Motion passes 5-0. Finally, item 8, board member committee reports or additional comments. Mrs. Chard.
I don't really have any. I think I reported on my committee before, so I'll spare you all comments from me tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bradford.
Well, I decided to split up my comments,
Okay.
so I had something to say before and now after. So Mrs. Chard and I went to the CTE meeting together, and it was so much fun. I was really pleased to see what's going on in the district in terms of teaching practical skills and things that are not necessarily learned in college. You know, it used to be taught from dad to son or dad to daughter. Mom, those kinds of things. And I was really pleased to see the students when we were in our little roundtable groups of the good ideas that they brought up, and it showed me that they're feeling, well, they're learning something in school, they have teachers who inspire them, and that they feel a part of the process of creating their own future. And I thought that was fabulous, and how happy I am to be a part of that. Okay, and let me put on my glasses to see if there's something else I need to say. That's it. Thanks for appointing me to that committee.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Mr. Mendez.
I just wanted to make a comment in relation to the approval of our LCAP plan at the county level. That is really an important document for the district and any district in the state. It really guides the expenditures and allocations to target specific needs to further the educational growth for our students in our district. And I know when we were designing the templates and so forth, it's providing feedback to people who design the templates way early on in this process through CSBA. We all took it very seriously in making sure that this local control that was being provided by the state to the districts not only meant something, but that really people made it work the way it was intended to function. And all that's being said to give our staff just a really tremendous appreciation from my part and all of us, I guess, for the work that you do each and every year to make sure that this, in fact, is not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law as well, too, that embodies, this document. So thank you. And I also like to actually, while I'm in a thanking and appreciation mode, I actually would like to extend appreciation of the board that we have. I think that I think we bring different experiences and talents and expertise to the table here, and I think everyone really does their homework and really takes a look at the agenda. And I'm impressed with the way that the questions are asked in a respectful manner, and just the whole manner in which the board takes the job that they're asked to do, being up here where we are. And it's a good group to be with, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Ms. Ortega.
And I have no committee reports, but I will be attending Healthy Jurupa tomorrow in the morning, and they're always delighted to have the community members to just share what's going on, and I'm always happy to see so many leaders in our community come together and see how we can make Jurupa Valley healthier. So I will be doing that tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. I just want to kind of follow up on what Mr. Mendez just said there, and I thank him for those kind words about the board. And I agree, not just because I'm on the board, but I think that these guys are really, these guys and gals, I think we, sometimes we have to make tough decisions, and, we make those for the betterment of this school district, for our students, and the community. And so, and we all, are very respectful, and so I want to also thank the board for that. 100 Mile Club is pretty awesome stuff. The website and all the tab. I can't wait to go home and check that out. And Mr. Warner, I think it's great that he's doing that. I wish I had the commitment for that, but it's not much of a runner. But yeah, it's a little too early for me too. I want to thank Dr. Hanson again and the team for, I'm very pleased with the progress of all of our projects here. I served a couple of years on the committee for facilities, and there's a long-term plan, and so I think you're keeping to that schedule and keeping us on budget as much as possible, and so great job to you and Dana and the team for that. I just kind of want to comment on a couple of things that Mr. Cook said, internships, DACA, Tweeting Tuesday. I mean, the Tweeting Tuesday, I've done that a couple of times. I'm not an expert in education, but I get to see a lot of the teachers and their interactions, and it's great to see they're really involved with it and excited about it. Sometimes I just log in real quick just to check it out. And DACA, a couple of weeks ago, I think the district issued a statement regarding our Dreamers, and it's good to see that we follow up with action and with these workshops, and so it really demonstrates a true commitment from this district. Internships, there's some great ideas, Lib. I think, and I know as Mrs. Bradford and I think Mrs. Chard on the CTE will tell you that there's a lot of work in that area with some of the companies in this area, and we should talk to more technology companies and try to get them to sponsor some of those internships. And finally, I know right now is a political season. Next year is a big race for governor, and I'm sure we all get phone calls from their campaigns, and especially us on the board here. But one of the first things I always talk about education and have my talking points ready, and doesn't matter who calls. That's what I'm hitting them with, is what are you going to do for us regarding whatever I think, for better funding for our schools. So I think we should all do that. Let's take them to task, and they want our vote, so let's go out there and talk about education. I mean, it's the most important thing, I think, for our future. So that's all I have for tonight. Mr. Deshawn, any final comments that you'd like to share with us?
I would just like to comment on our students at the Food Fest and how literally we could not do it, and I mean literally. When it came to cleaning up, there's 17 easy ups that had to be disassembled. with netting, which was new this year, that had to be taken down. Of course, this was after they were put up. All that work was done by our ROTC, your Lions Club, junior clubs, and our Interact Club, and as well as, I think, ASB from Jurupa Valley High. And one of our teachers, Karen Martinez, was very much involved with it. I know you have several teachers in the Lions Club, and our Major McCall at Rubidale High School. Anyway, it was just amazing. I thanked the students profusely, and every time I thanked them, they said, "No, thank you. We really appreciate doing it." So, I mean, we give back, but they really give a lot. So it was quite a privilege to see the students working so hard. And it was a fun evening, too. Lots of food for a few bucks. So if you missed it this year and you want a good meal next year, it's worth attending.
Absolutely have to agree with the students. I mean, a bunch of old guys and gals like us up there, we couldn't do it. Definitely couldn't do it without them. And so, thanks to the students again. Well, it's true.
It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.